Great. Today is January 17th. I'm with Greg Thorpe, patient at Northwest Cannabis Market. Greg, please spell your name, please.
Throop.
And
Just for the record,
Throop?
John, it's actually like Thompson, silent H, Troop.
Troop.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And just so we have it, you did sign the release today. This is good for use.
It's good for use. Sure.
Great.
Sure. I'm taking a stand, so
Good deal.
I'm okay.
So, Greg, what I'd like to ask you today is a couple of questions. Do you remember the first day you came into the market? What was your impression of that day?
The first time I came to the market, I felt like I don't know how to say this, but I felt like I'd stumbled onto like the Nirvana here. You know what I mean? Because I looked around and there were all the different vendors, and I personally have sort of I'm not really a big fan of the individual dispensaries. I feel like you get locked in. It's like the personality's not to be put to find a point on it. But when you come to the market, you have all the different vendors competing. You can find what you like. There's a lot greater selection. So I appreciate the market concept tremendously.
So you feel this serves you as a better business model than a single access point dispensary does?
Immeasurably. You have to look at it from the producer standpoint. Think of the overhead in running a single one of these, right? And you know what I mean? And so the idea of less overhead obviously translates into more reasonable prices for the patient, right? And
Sure.
this is, when you think about it, that's what's going on here, you know what I mean? So the business model, I think, is far superior to the single one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just from a...
And Greg, when did you start coming to our markets?
Oh, boy. This one I came, in fact, both of them, White Center, I think about day practically near one.
So September 2011 over at White Center and
Yeah.
February 13th
Over here.
of last year over here.
Might have not been the exact
Or the
day,
13th, I should
but
say.
pretty close, you know what I mean? The minute Galaxy opened up, it was obviously much closer. White Center is like Timbuktu, you know what I mean?
Right.
For me. So this is much better.
And I'm sorry, what part of the city? I don't even know your address, but
No.
what part of the city do you live in?
I live on Eastgate.
Oh, okay, cool. So you'd rather have something even closer to you there?
Well, I don't know. I'm not trying to push anything. It's the thing that's nice about this is obviously this is a reasonable rent district, right? So the problem with the east side is high rents, what I
Sure.
mean? So
And that would show up in the cost of the
It would have to
medicine.
show. It had to be passed on. How businesses, that's how they work.
Sure.
I got no kick with it, but you got to be smart. And so I think that this is a better model. It's right across. It takes me, no time at all across the bridge, and I don't care about driving across the bridge. So.
Great. And you've been coming for quite a while. You must have some
Years.
stories that have stuck in your mind over the years.
Well, I don't know. now you might have me, Don. Just that. It's just been always a very pleasant experience, And this is something that I've taken people from out of town, who are medical card, they're legit, but nonetheless, not from here, and they're floored because it's almost too much for them, I brought a friend of mine, you know what I mean?
Right.
Kalama, you know what I mean? And they got it's a rural scene in Kalama, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's teeny weeny, and it's like, couldn't believe it, couldn't even begin to sort out where to start, so so I guess that's a good story, George was overwhelmed, so other than that,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Are you aware that the city is actually trying to shut the markets down? They want to have just one collective garden per address.
Oh, I'm all over this one. I know what the problem is here, and this is terrible because in today's Hear Me Now's paper is an article about retail and about how they have gone from scarcity of product to oversupply of product. There is now mammoth amounts of unsold recreational pot, right? For various and sundry reasons,
Right. What do you think those reasons are that pot on the recreational market's
it's real
available but
simple.
it's unsold?
It's real simple. It's not based on essentially the capitalist model of bringing the price of what the merchandise will bear. In other words, they set a price, right? And people are supposed to come into the store and pay whatever this price is, right? And this is not, that isn't how it works. As you can see, with competition between vendors, it's like everything else in life, like the value of the dollar or anything else, it's going to float. And depending on how good it is and all these other things, and I think a lot of these considerations are taken out of recreational pot.
Sure.
Which is what the problem is, right? And, so in other words, $18 a gram, or, you're a real sharp shopper, $8 a gram, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And for, I would say, pretty much straight across, you know what I mean? So I don't see where, to the consumer, the advantage is, right? And so people aren't entirely stupid. It said they're either in the black market or they're in the medical dispensaries, and that seems, I'll buy that, but the thing is that what they want to do is throttle off the medical and somehow let the recreational flourish, you know what I mean? And I think it's a mistake,
Sure.
because all the real professionals are in the medical pot field. It was the first one to open up, right? And not only that, but just the kind of people that it is, what I mean, about bragging rights about, it's like hot cars, the highest quality pot and bud and the best taste, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's bragging rights, and that's what kind of fuels the whole thing on the private level, you know what I mean?
Sure.
On the medical level too. And, competition among growers to really have the best product, right? I mean,
Right.
And
Which serves everybody.
oh, there's no downside to this. I mean,
Right.
this is like competition between automobile manufacturers. There's no downside to you. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
you get a better car, pot, whatever it is. You know what I mean? So no downside. But the point is, like I say, a lot of that's taken out of these recreational thing. It's just to essentially say, well, pot. You know what I mean? And that's not going to work for a majority of the people who smoke it. You know what I
Right.
mean? Already, because they've already got. It's worse than coffee, you know what I mean? There's more prejudices and, you know what I mean, and
Yep.
likes and dislikes and, and which is all good because there's trillions of strains, you know what I mean? You can knock yourself any way you want, but
Sure.
the problem is the state wants to put it in certain categories and limit it in certain ways, and it's the worst model I've ever heard. And
They're trying to reinvent the wheel that we've already invented over the last 80 years.
this is what I'm trying to say, yeah, you know what I mean? In other words, for better or worse, the medical market was an extension of what was going on already in existence, you know what I mean?
It was a more normalization of
Exactly.
bringing it off of Dave's couch and putting it into the stores.
Exactly right. That's what I'm saying. So it was a more natural deal, and as I say, it brought all the real professionals with it. You know what I mean? And so they're in this mold thing already. Get back to them in a minute here.
Thank you.
Hang on, Teresa. I'll call you right back. Okay? Okay.
So let me ask you then, Greg. You're aware of what's going on in the legislature. It looks like the desire is to push medical in with recreational.
True enough.
Now, I want to ask you, if that was to happen through legislation, would you be more likely to follow the law and go buy your medicine or attempt to go buy your medicine at a recreational store? Or would you be more likely to go back underground?
Well, see, now I'm never going to say on tape or anywhere else that I'm going to go do anything illegal. But let's just say that the pressure, it would be hard for politicians to ignore. I mean, the way I look at it is it's like water in the desert. This can all just, go into the rocks and disappear from sight immediately. And it doesn't mean the water's gone anywhere. You
Right.
know what I mean? And that could happen with this very, very easily. And if I were a politician, that would concern me because, what we're going to have to come to, and we don't like this, is being taxed on this medical pot. You know what I
Right.
mean? Because they want the money. Okay, and that's what this is all about in a cold, hard way. We're going to have to start giving them some, or there's going to be a problem. I
Right.
hate to say it, but I mean, this is, it kills me. You know what I mean? But I mean, on the other hand, compromise is endemic, you know what I mean? And in the system, and something will have to be done, especially because one system is working and one system isn't. And this idea of merging them together to save the failing system is probably not the wisest course, you know what I mean? I just think they could just tax the medical thing, you know what I mean, and let that.
Well, they'd be happy to tax medical at the recreational rates.
Well, and again, there's the issue of they're going to have to compromise too. You know what I mean? Is my opinion, right? I mean, there's going to have to be a middle ground somewhere here. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because it's too freaking expensive right now. Okay, not to be candid, but I mean, let's be. Okay, I mean, it's still expensive. I mean, have you looked at that?
So the cost of cannabis,
$200 an ounce for it.
yeah,
you
the
know?
cost of cannabis takes away your ability to fund other necessities of yours.
Right. I mean, it's like everything else. There's only so everything. Resources are finite, and everything has to fit in the finite picture. you
Right.
know? And so, if you don't have the more, the state has to decide whether it wants, quality or quantity here, and because the bottom line is that, if they think, you can either sell a little bit of recreational pot with a hell of a tax on it, or a lot of medical pot with a reasonable tax on it.
Sure.
And I think that that's what is going to have to be the thrust of this, because this is the only working model.
It does work every day, 7 days a week.
It's like a hammer. You come in here and you realize how well this works, And even if I know for a fact that the medical even had a surge of this unsold for a while, you know what I mean? But that
Sure.
right now, that isn't what's going on, right? I mean, I see these guys move their product, you know what I mean? They don't sit around home wondering where's it going to go. You
Right.
know what I mean? So,
Fresh produce daily.
that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Geared to demand. You know what I mean? I mean, very rarely do they throw out tons and tons of cauliflowers. You know what I mean? They kind of know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think it's true with this too. Adjustments to volume. You know what I mean? Based on demand. You know what I mean? And relatively quickly.
Excuse me, Jim.
Yeah.
Right. Which is something that they flooded the recreational market with that Eastern Washington outdoor, right? Like 300 pounds.
That's
or
what they
something.
had of it. Well, not much of a flood, but it was a considerable amount. And I got to tell you, it was nice to see it done in that fashion.
Oh, now listen, my heart swelled with pride that we had the first, pot auction. An
yeah.
outdoor pot auction. I'm like, oh my God, real life, you know what I mean? I mean, seriously, pot is a agricultural commodity, which is just the most beautiful thing I could ever think of, in general. But, you know what I mean? Like I say, what I'm told, according to the paper, what do I know, what I read in it, that was the Eastern Washington pot is what is flooding the recreational coffers, you know what I mean? And my imagination is it's probably not that great. You know what I mean? I mean, no offense, but,
So in other words, it's tested and it's certified, but nobody wants it.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. It's like, look, I don't know. The one thing that the state doesn't understand is swag, okay? And there is swag pot in this world, and you know it, and I know
Oh, yeah.
it, you know what I mean? And it's like beer in white cans with black lettering, you know what I mean? It's like,
It does the
yeah,
job, but
yeah,
do you want it?
But really, are you going to pay for it? And the answer is usually not, you know what I mean? And
Right, and certainly not at a premium.
and certainly not at a premium price. And again, that's what I said, you're trying to deal to Washington State is a very developed and sophisticated connoisseur market of pot, and if you think not, walk around. You know
Right.
what I mean? I mean, they'll educate you quite quickly. You know what I mean? And so, it's not a bunch of dumb rubes selling,
Right. It's
used
not
to
Dave
sell
sitting on his couch
commercial
anymore.
pot, yeah, commercial pot in a gift wrap from Mexico, like it used to come. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this isn't that. So you have to know your customer, sell to your customer, and they're tone deaf.
The state.
The state is tone deaf.
Yeah.
The state is tone deaf because they don't know. They have no experience. I mean,
I think you've nailed it. It is that they don't know, and they don't have the experience.
right. So
Great.
you're forced to depend on those who do.
Well, Greg, thanks a lot for your impressions today. I want to ask you, do you have a memorable story from the market, an experience, either with another patient or a vendor or staff? Something that comes to mind?
They know that Don guy is all right when I see him up at the front desk. But, no.
You'll still have to show your ID and authorization, Greg.
And, listen, I think that's the minimum deal. I mean, you saw on Channel 8 the black eye where they go to some dispensary and they're so desperate they just let him in or whatever, without the thing. And I know that would never, ever, ever happen at the farmer's market. Okay, I mean, and even as personally frustrating as that may or may not be, because one time they made a mistake on my authorization and got the date wrong, but I couldn't come in. Even though me, it was right, everything was good, said no, and although I was a little frustrated, I still think that, there's a lot at stake, but, you gotta toe the line, and you know, I mean, we're extremely grateful to be able to do this in the state of Washington legally, and I have no desire to shortcut that.
Great.
So,
Well, we appreciate you as a patient, and appreciate you coming in, and thank you for participating in this project.
well, you know, for what it's worth, I mean, you know, I got on my little soapbox about it, but I really think that.
Well, that's what we want. You know,
Yeah.
this is important. You know, you may know me as an activist of such, but you know, I can only speak for myself really, or speak to the people that I know fairly intimately. And it's really important that people in our legislature hear from patients like you and hear your stories honestly in your own words. And who could better explain it better than the patient themselves?
Well, I agree. You know, I just feel exceedingly grateful that something that I have waited a good, you know,
Your whole
50
life.
years of my 45, 50 years
Yeah.
of my life to have happen. You know, when it finally occurs, you know, I mean, I still want them to mess it up. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
And so I think that it's important to learn from, you know, nothing succeeds like success.
Right.
Okay, and so my advice to the state is to, you know, follow the successful model. Understand that the people in the medical deal are reasonable, but understand too that this is where your resource of knowledge is. This is where your, you know, the real depth of knowledge in this whole thing exists, and that they need to incorporate this, you know what I mean, instead of decide that it's something alien or just to be gotten rid of, because this is
Right.
this is not the right plan here.
So, as a patient, then, would you say that when you come into the market with questions, you find your answers here, or
Oh, now, from that standpoint, again, I say that the depth of knowledge here both is tremendous, both from the use of the product, the types of product. There's no question that, you know, any question that I have, these guys can answer. That's for sure.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
And Greg, thank you again for participating, and we look forward to seeing you at the market again soon.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right,
Got my 15 minutes.
that's it. If I can figure out how to turn this thing on.